Welcome back, everyone. I'm super excited this month to bring the modern versus traditional rosé champagne. And we've got two awesome producers here for you today, Etienne Calsac and Alfred Gratien.
We're fond of both of them, I think,
Yeah.
for different reasons. You know, one house has been going since 1864, very traditional techniques. Etienne Calsac, new kid on the block, super sexy. I'm talking about the wines. And, you know, it's a really modern interpretation on making champagne. So it's going to be an awesome lineup of rosés.
Okay, so young Etienne, what happens when you inherit about 2 to 3 hectares of amazing land scattered across Vallée de la Marne and Côte de Blanc? You get very excited, naturally. So the best thing that he did when he took over in 2010, his grandparents who gave him the land, or should I say he inherited the land from his grandparents, they were selling to the houses beforehand, and Etienne stepped in and he decided to change everything up and put down some organic processes in place and really change up how the wine looked and felt. So the rosé he makes is only about 1,000 bottles, but a really delicious mineral style example of what he's making.
So, you know, Etienne has unlimited potential, but that is certainly not the same situation with the wine. So we've got tiny quantities, but we've got a really talented winemaker. He's a really hot winemaker right now.
Yep.
I think the wines show incredible complexity. He's got really old vines, he's got a very careful winemaking technique, and they show immense power and immense precision.
Yeah, and I love them. And I did note with you earlier, I said organic, a lot of the organic wines I've been seeing, especially in April, have this underlying sort of herbal note, not in a bad way, but in actually just an aromatic sense, which is delicious. So one of the best things about being in a Grave and being in Aviz and Bissoy is being able to pick all these amazing varieties to make this wine. This is actually 86% Chardonnay from a combination of all these areas and 14% red wine. And it's actually quite a light color if you look at it, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. I actually thought, you know, with the 14% red wine addition, I thought it might have been deeper in color, but you've got that pure Chardonnay base, and I actually quite like that in a champagne. What you see when you first pour this wine is red fruit intensity, but it settles in the glass, and then you see more of the elegance and the suppleness and the softness of the Chardonnay coming through, which is beautiful.
It's a lovely interplay between them, and Rosé de Craie, literally meaning chalk rose, is I think a beautiful description because it is that lovely mineral drying finish, but there's these lovely aromatics that play. And you know, I could have this with food, I could drink it all day. It's super fresh and on cue for summertime.
Very light, powdery finish from the tannins on the wine, but I think it's one of our favourites, there's no doubt about it.
And one thing I'll note, for all you nerds out there and some of the newest club members that have joined us, you can find so much information just on the back label. It literally spells out what he does to give you an idea. And this will change from year to year, so you know, production does differ, doesn't it?
Yeah, a great wine. Our second producer for this month is the Alfred Gratien wines. We're really fond of this house.
Very much so, yeah.
What's interesting is the comparison between Etienne Calsac is that we are very, very traditional in our winemaking approach. The house has been around since 1864, so a long history, still family owned. But what I find really fascinating is that the winemaking family have come in and since 1905 have handed from father to son and father to son. So we have the Jaeger family who've had that continuity of winemaking, one son watching his father very closely in the vineyard and handing the winemaking responsibility down the line.
Yeah, completely.
It's interesting that the house also never gave up on barrel. You know, with this modern interpretation of making wine, everything moving to stainless steel in the vineyards, there were a handful of vineyards that never moved away from the traditional winemaking techniques, and that's what we're looking at today, modernity versus tradition. We have the primary fermentation in barriques, small oak barriques, before moving to long aging in the bottle, and most importantly, no malolactic fermentation. So you've got this tight line of acid, but you've got this roundness and suppleness coming from the oak aging.
Completely, yeah.
So the Alfred Gratien Brut Rosé is a complete contrast to the Etienne Calsac. So we've got a traditional winemaking approach being deployed by Nicholas Jaeger, the 4th generation winemaker at the house. So what's happening here is that we're doing the primary fermentation in a 228 litre oak barrel, the traditional way, the way that Dom Perignon or anyone in the original days of Champagne would have made champagne. And then what we're doing is retaining that malic acid. Now, malolactic fermentation, bit of a dorky word, but essentially it means taking those tart malic acids that are present in wine and putting them through a conversion process to a softer, more lactic acid, like you might find in cream or milk. Most winemakers do this. It makes the champagne rounder. By blocking that transformation and retaining malic acidity, you've got this beautiful spine of acidity which gives you aging potential. And Kiri, the wine has been 6 months in the barrel and then into the bottle and then 5 years in the cellar.
Yeah.
And what I love about this wine, and I know you love it too, is that you get this roundness, you get layers, you get softness from barrel and time, but you've got this beautiful spine of malic acidity that holds it all together and gives it some structure. Well,
you're absolutely right. And for me, this is craftsmanship at play. This is the best way to describe winemaking at this level. It's a craft. So by using lees and thyme and oak,
and patience.
Non-mallow, patience, knowing where your fruit's coming on from, some of the best parcels for each of the varieties from Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier.
Yeah.
It's like a mosaic. It's done beautifully. So there's a reason why they've kept it that way, because it works. And it's a really smart example of what rosé can be.
And lovely cherry and strawberry, but you've got the bit of spice and some peppercorn and
I like, look, not everyone gets not using mallow right, and
I agree.
It's actually quite a tricky thing to get right, because you're dealing with the soils and the acidity that they bring, plus the varieties and what they sort of bring to the table. But if you don't get your acids right for the long term, it could look really quite disjointed.
And
then some people often add a little bit too much sugar to make things come back round. So, but these two are great. They're total opposites, and I love them equally for it.
So fantastic to see two very different styles of winemaking. You know, we often put champagne into one category, we put rosé even into a smaller category, but there's diversification within the winemaking techniques. Etienne Calsac, young gun, fresh winemaker, really doing things differently. Exceptional wines, but then we've got a classic producer, Alfred Gratien, under the careful hand of the Jaeger family, keeping with tradition. Yeah. Both wines are excellent. I think they're both very interesting. To all our new club members, welcome aboard. We've had a lot of new club members joining this month. I hope that you enjoy the differentiation that you can get from some of these amazing cuvées, amazing champagnes coming out of the region. I think that these are two exceptional examples and you're going to love them both.
Yes, you will. My mind was racing to find an analogy, and I'm a big Batman fan, and if this is Alfred the butler, classic and old school, this is the Wonder Boy Robin, you know, making his way, trying to impress everyone in the new field of champagne. So salute to you.
Enjoy your champagnes this month. We'll see you on the next edition.
See you next month.